Welcome to video number 3 of Do You Belong in Echoes of Recovery video series.
It's our 6-part series, and today in video 3, we're talking about resentment processing. The topics in the series overall are nervous system repair, writing, how important that is, how important it is to find your tribe, the all important should I stay or should I go decision, and the importance of feeling a sense of belonging in your recovery. But today we're talking about resentment processing. This is a very loaded and important subject. Resentment processing, there's a lot there.
Yeah, we could probably do a whole video series on just resentment processing.
That's true. There is a lot. Now, Sherry, I want to start with a question for you. You are a stuffer. When we talk in Echoes of Recovery about, because there's lots of people who are stuffers, what does it mean to you? What does that mean when we say you're a stuffer?
Well, I think for them, I wouldn't bring things up when they were in the moment. Maybe because I felt like it was the wrong time, or maybe I needed to analyze whether or not it was worth the argument or the fight or the discussion. Also, I didn't want to upset a dynamic that was going on in the relationship, and at that moment, particularly if there was if I could see you were in a particularly foul mood, even if you weren't drinking per se, but during your drinking days,
foul mood.
Yeah, um, it could launch into something really bad and argumentative, and you were really good at arguing, and not listening. So I would shove things down, and I wouldn't even say it was necessarily to keep the peace. Some people do that. I just looked at it like it was a little bit of self protection, because I thought, oh, I'll just work it out another way. I'll just, not say anything. I'll shove it down, push it aside. But what happened for me was then when there was an opening, then all the stuff I had shoved down, like if we were in a really heated argument and I really wanted to get nasty and vengeful and I just needed to let it out, I would explode. So everything I had been packing down just came out.
Do you feel like resentments, they don't just, I mean, this is a loaded question, but they don't just go away? Like, you have to address them, whether it's addressing them in a moment, maybe whether you have a systematic process for addressing them, or whether you stuff them down and then you wait until you're in the middle of an argument and then they all come spilling out.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they've got to be addressed. They aren't going to just stay stuffed down, are they?
No, they're not going to stay stuffed down. And that's why I don't think that what I did, like exploding, was a resentment processing, because they weren't ever well received, and I just looked like I was crazy and just picking things out of nowhere, and I couldn't explain or set the scenario up, and you weren't in a calm place, I wasn't in a calm place to kind of talk about it. So you can't just shove it and push it aside. It has to be either written about or shared over and over with a friend, or maybe, I know one time one of our boys had a soccer or flag football practice, and it happened to have this really great walking path, but nobody ever used the walking path around the park. And so I actually just did like an kind of a verbal, like,
by yourself,
blog post a couple times, because I had read in a book about, like, if you're not a writer, or if you're like sitting in traffic and you have to get something out, or you can't, like, you're walking and you can't really talk about it, do like a verbal journal. So I did that. I had downloaded a little recorder app, and I never listened to them.
So did you pretend like you were on the phone?
Yeah.
So you didn't look like a nutbag out there just walking around talking to yourself?
Yeah. I
love that. That's great.
So you have to talk and work it out, and I am a verbal processor too, so that's why I think that helps me a lot, just to kind of mumble through, because then I could also bring it to you later on a little more, not so much planned out, but a little more scrutinized in how I make the initial comment, because the way I was going to approach it could really could really make us go off the rails if I was really nasty and negative about it. So I needed to have a preemptive process.
It's like a planning session.
Yeah, but then I got better at it, and then I was able to, and when we were getting in a better place. This was when drinking was, and dry drunk or early sobriety, those sort of moments.
Yeah.
So I really kind of had to focus on getting it out so it wasn't hurting me so much to talk about
Well,
it.
you do have to get it out. Even the stuffers of the world have to get it out. I also want to explain how this works from the standpoint of the former alcoholic like me, the drinker who's hopefully in sobriety and recovery. The recovery progress that you're making, you can really tell how far along we are when we try to do this resentment processing. When Sherry, when you bring up an incident from the past related to my drinking that's painful for you, if I can hear that and be supportive and empathetic and do all of that about these traumas of the past without letting it re-traumatize me, then I'm making a lot of progress in my recovery. And so a lot of people, a lot of alcoholics say, okay, that's all in the past. I'm a different person now. I don't want to go back there. Can't we focus on the present and the future? And why do you have to bring up that crap from the past? That's a bad sign for an alcoholic in recovery. If you're not able to hear the traumas that your partner or any family member or friend has gone through as a result of your drinking, then you need to keep working on your individual recovery, because it's not all about just the amends process. I'm the alcoholic. I think it through. I say I'm sorry, and then we move on, and that thing is now buried, never to be brought up again. The fact that I can listen to you express pains from experiences of the past, and I can do it in an empathetic way without letting it re-traumatize me, that's a sign of my progress. And it's really, really important. I am at a point now where I look at, like, sometimes you'll bring up something multiple times from the past, and the initial knee-jerk reaction of most alcoholics would be, we already talked about that. Why are you bringing that up again? And then just think that my partner is crazy, or my partner can't get over it, or my partner needs to do more work, and my partner, she's the one with the problem. Well, really, I look at that as great. If you're going to bring up the same thing over and over, that shows us where the pain point is. For those who know us a little better than others, we've talked many times about the trauma of your 40th birthday. And so when you bring up your 40th birthday experience multiple times, rather than me saying, we already talked about that, I think to myself, great. This is the part that still hurts. Let's dig deeper. Let's figure out what it is so we can process those resentments, because they definitely don't just go away on their own.
Yeah. And when I bring them up multiple times too, I've realized that there are different pieces.
Yeah.
Pardon me.
Yeah, that 40th birthday weekend was 3 days of hell, not just one. So there are multiple aspects to it that I'm sure you want to talk about.
Yeah, because sometimes it's initial, like, big picture events, like, the fact that you and I had different expectations, but then, like, underlying can be things where I felt disrespected, or I felt like ignored, or I felt like I wasn't important, to, like, say my piece. So sometimes when you do bring up a very, I think, traumatic event, it's like an onion, and you peel it back. And then I think also, as you're healing, sometimes you find things in that traumatic event that you didn't really process because you didn't know to, like, look for it, or you didn't feel that you earned that respect of, like, I wish you would have listened to me about what I wanted.
Yeah. Yeah. An absolute key, an absolute necessity for processing resentments is emotional safety. Both parties to the resentment processing have to be able to keep a level head, have to not defend and deflect, have to not start yelling and blaming the other person. If Sherry's upset, that's her experience. Me yelling at her for her experience doesn't make any sense at all. Not that I didn't used to do that, because I did. But just listening, and often it's not about solving her problem for her. It's just acknowledging that her experience is real and that what she's sharing deserves to be spoken about. And by doing so, I take some of the burden off of Sherry, and we share the load of this traumatic memory. There are a number of ways that Echoes of Recovery helps facilitate this is resentment processing thing that needs to happen. We share techniques. You heard Sherry just now share some of the details of ways that she has worked through resentments. We hear examples of successes and potholes in the road. We hear people say, listen, I tried this with my partner and it was a disaster and here's how it went. And we listen through that and help people come up with ideas for how to do it the next time even better. And often the partner is not available to do the resentment processing with. Either you've separated or divorced from that partner, they've sadly passed on, or they just can't go there. A lot of us former alcoholics, we just can't do this work. And so if you've got a partner who for some reason or other can't do the resentment processing work with you, we can do it with you in Echoes. Yes, ultimately it would be best if you could do the work with your partner, but if you can't, you can get relief, you can make progress by sharing your traumatic experiences with the folks in Echoes of Recovery. One thing that's not an option, so those are the things that are options. There's lots of them for processing resentments. The one thing, as Sherry said earlier, that's not an option is to just not process the resentments at all and hope they go away, because they never will. Yeah. If you'd like to hear more of our opinionated ramblings, please check out the Untoxicated podcast.
And if you're more of the reading type, go to soberandunashamed.com.
If you're picking up what we're laying down, please check out shoutsobriety.org or echoesofrecovery.org. We get what you're going through. You've got this, and we've got you.